Okay, so we were talking about an interesting idea. Something has intrinsic value, but only to one person because it has, let's say, a sentimental value, or it can only help one individual. Let's say it could be a particular cocktail of medication that only helps a one specific individual. It's very, very valuable, but only to one person. So that might be another example. I don't know. So we saw yesterday that a kameya, according to the Sefer Chachma Shlomo, has is not subject to the laws of Shmira because it has no intrinsic value because it works on a supernatural level. So that was a secondary argument. Something that works on a supernatural level and not on a natural level is not considered to have intrinsic value. Omnam b'sefer minchat pitim hevi b'shem shut av kasrochel b'din adam sheshal kos sheyesh bo skula l'refuah. Then I don't know if anyone did their homework to look up magic bowls. Did anyone decide to research that more? A person borrowed a cup that has a special skula factor because of sheyesh bo dine shomrim lefi ma sheshava hakos kefi erech skulaso. And the argument was a person who borrowed this cup and then I guess he lost it. So the Sefer Avkas Rochel says that that person is obligated to protect it and will be liable for its value because since it's a skula cup, since it's known to have provided benefit for those who drink from it, it could be something marketable and could have intrinsic value. Eles shetzideit sham haminchas pitim liftor bedin kameya shemiyuchad la'adam mesuyam. But the Sefer Minchas Pitim says, but if it's only for one person, like an amulet, then the person who is watching it would be exempt. Because he's not going to be liable because you can't say that it has intrinsic value when it's only a value to one person. And therefore, it's like causing something that is of value to be lost without destroying it directly, which makes you not liable. Asher al kein nikra nira shebimikra hazeh shakameh haya al shmo miyuchad bishvilo dino kishtar shein gufo mamonu pater. And therefore, it seems to me, says Rav Sharaga, that in a situation like this, where a person entrusted his amulet to his brother-in-law and the brother-in-law lost it, even though it may have been a negligent kind of loss, the brother-in-law is going to be exempt because it's not considered something that has intrinsic value for two reasons. Reason number one, because it works on a supernatural level, not on a natural level. And reason number two, because it only has value to one person, it's not effective for anybody else. I don't know what we would say if we were to uncouple those two reasons from each other. Would his psak be different? Because both reasons in and of themselves should be enough to make you exempt. Let's take a look a little bit at the footnote. He says at the Makor Baruch, he says, V'chein kosav b'shut beis Yitzchak liftor b'shomer she'ibed get. He says, let's talk about a case where something has value only to one person. A guy loses a get, okay? The afal pisha chashiv kegufa mamun laba'al kevin shu tzarech li'ishtamish beguf get lagarish ishta. So a guy paid a lot of money to hire a scribe to write a get so that he could give to his wife. He gives it to his friend for safekeeping until the day comes when he can give his wife the get, and his friend loses it. So is that friend liable for the value of the get? And the answer is that even though the husband really needs that get so he can use it to divorce his wife, mikol makom kevin shahaget shaver rak lo v'lo la'af echad acher al kain hashomer patur. But that get is of no value to anyone else, and therefore is not considered to have intrinsic value, and therefore he's going to be patur. Umishum hachi chala gam al hashoyel umeshiv shepasak sheshomer sheibei darkon chayav even shahadarkon shaver rak leba'alav ayin sham, and therefore he disagrees with the previous tshuva that we had seen from the Shoel Umeshiv, which we saw, I think, yesterday, who said that if a person loses his friend's passport, the Sholem Eshiv says that that has intrinsic value because it's the thing that allows you to cross borders, and therefore you're going to be liable. However, the counter argument to that is that yes, it has intrinsic value, but it's only of intrinsic value to one person. So based on that, he says that you're going to be potter. Amnam haminchas pitim sham tzided gam leidach gisa, the kevin shahakamea havigufa mamun lagabe ba'alav efshur shashomer chayiv, kidivrei hashol umeshiv lefi lagabe darkon, v'hiniach hadavar b'tzarachian ayin sham. And then the Minchas Pitim wants to argue the opposite, that just like a passport has intrinsic value, like the Sholem Eshiv had taught, maybe a kameya has intrinsic value as well, even though it's only usable for one person. So essentially, you've got really three different factors that determine whether something has value or not, and the difference being, is a shomer going to be liable if he loses it? One is, does it have intrinsic value or does it only have representative value? Number two, if it has intrinsic value, is it only for one person? And in which case there are those who say that that still is considered intrinsic value, like a passport, and others say no, if it only has value to one person and not to others, then it's not a commodity that can be exchanged with others for cash, and therefore the shomer is going to be potter. And finally, number three, what if it has intrinsic value, but the value that it has is based on some supernatural effect and not a natural effect? So that's another consideration where some poskim say that that's not called intrinsic value. Nimsa shebedavar shegufo mamon aval shava rakala ba'alav, l'das hashoyel umeshiv chayiv b'dinei shmira, u'ledas habeis yitzchak potter, v'minchas pitim histapek bazeh. So it turns out, just in this footnote, what he says is that if something has value but only to one person, then one posek says that you're chayiv, like losing a passport. The other posek says you're going to be potter, and there's a third opinion that is not sure which way we pass. V'lichora, mashakasav aminchas pitim da hashomer potter imadarkon shaver rak leba'olav v'lo la'af echad acher. He says now, the argument that a person who loses his friend's passport should be potter because it only has value to one person, kevin dahavi kedavar hagorim lamamon delav kamamon dami, l'chora zehu kedivrei hanasiva shevein la'el avalo mita'amo. So it would seem like he's going like the Nesivas before, but for a totally different reason. The Nesivas that we had brought before, what did we say? We had seen it yesterday. Yeah, right. The Nesivas had said if something only has intrinsic value to one person, then you're going to be potter. Okay. Yeah, that's the interesting thing, is that it's going to cost him a lot of money to replace it. And I don't understand why we don't take that into consideration. In other words, the get may be worth, just for replacement value, is probably worth $800 because you have to hire a scribe. Maybe it's not 800, but okay, a few $100 to hire a scribe to rewrite it under proper direction. Okay. So I don't understand why that's not taken into consideration. It's an excellent point, Hal. And the same thing with the passport. You lost my passport. I have to go take off a day's work, go down to the Service Canada office, and I've got to go apply for a new passport for when I lost my passport, and I've got to pay all the fees, right? So I may not be entitled to compensation for not being able to go on my vacation, and you've caused me this loss because now I have to forfeit my Caribbean cruise or whatever it is, but at least pay me for the cost of what it costs me to go and replace the passport. So I'm not sure whether what Rav Sharaga would say about that. Now, let's just do this last footnote and maybe you'll say something. I don't know. Afal pisha havi machlokas haposkim kemoshim mavur b'tshuvas Rabbeinu agon ha'mechaber shlita mikol makom nira de Rabbeinu pasak de pater. He says it seems the reason why Rav Sharaga paskins in the case of an amulet that the shomer is pater is mishum diyachol hashomer lomar kimli kanasiva shedavar ishi sheyev shalomachol la'acher ein chayavim behezeko. He says because the shomer could always say kimli. Remember that term kimli is very important in these kinds of halachas. I paskin like those poskim who say I'm pater. Yes, there are many poskim who say that I'm chayav, but I go like those poskim who say that I'm pater. The lav kamomon dami, and the minchas pitim paskins that way also. That the fact is that it's only worth something to you, but not to anybody else, because no one else can use your amulet, and therefore I'm pater. And he could also say that I paskin like the Chacham Shlomo, who says that anything that has a supernatural effect is no different from a promissory note. It has representative value, but not intrinsic value, and therefore he has two reasons to say why he doesn't have to pay. Yeah, there may be an ethical, like you're saying, Joby, there may be an ethical imperative for him to try to do something to make his brother-in-law feel better. But you're right, it was an act of negligence. And there are poskim who say that, remember we saw that big machlokas, that even if a shomer is negligent, but if it's for negligence on real estate and or something that has representative value, then he can still claim that he's pater. Well, what is the real value of an amulet? It's just a piece of parchment with.
Maybe it's like it's my amulet and all my luck come from Kippur. So you cannot charge extra for something.
Right. Well, you raised the issue of a ketubah. Let's say I entrust my friend with my ketubah. Let's say a woman entrusts her friend, watch over my ketubah, and she loses it. So what? Like Hal was arguing, maybe replacement value is something that you could do. But what if it was a piece of art, and it was commissioned by this famous artist for thousands of dollars to write? So that also that's very subjective. What about and it's not like it's a famous artist that you could sell it on the open market and say that it has an indexed value on the open market. Like if a person loses a Da Vinci painting, so then you could say that there's intrinsic value to it because it can be sold on the open market. Okay, so that you could say has intrinsic value. But if something is an artwork that's only valuable to me because it has my ketubah on it, so then maybe the most that I could sue him for is replacement value for a ketubah, which you can buy for $10 in a Judaica store, just to have a fill-in ketubah. Yeah, so unfortunately, what turns out is that even in cases of negligence, there are going to be many situations where a shomer will be able to claim exemption. Now, let's just be very careful with our general understanding of liability. There are many instances where I can create a scenario where I cause someone damage and I do it in such a way where I won't be liable, even if the video camera films me causing the damage. A classic example is, let's say I put poison in my friend's doggy dish, and the dog comes along and eats his dinner and then drops dead. So technically, the Gemara says I'm pater because I didn't force the animal to eat the poison. So my act was only causative. It wasn't direct damage. The animal had to come and eat from the poison. So, right now, that's one of the most morally deplorable kinds of things that a person would do would be to put, let's say, broken glass or poison in an animal's food to cause the animal to die, right? Especially it's a pet that has tremendous value, like Marv's story before when he was presiding over that case, Fifi or whatever the dog's name was. Um, uh, but there are many instances where a Beis Din will hold the person to be putter. Does that mean that Hashem will hold the person to be putter? No, of course not. You do a morally deplorable act where people are harmed in the process. Hashem will punish you eventually. Will punish the perpetrator. So we have to believe, when we learn these kinds of halachas of liability, even if a person can get exempt on a technicality, there is a great equalizer in heaven who will who will make sure that people are brought to justice. Okay? So with that, let's go on to the next shuva. Isha she'ibda sharsheret chaverta v'shalmala v'achar kach matzea ota. Okay, the name of this shuva is a woman lost her friend's necklace and paid her for the loss. And then she found the necklace. So who gets the necklace? Can she keep the necklace because she paid for it, or does she have to return the necklace and get her money back? Okay. Sha'alt, so here's the shaila in more detail. Sha'alti mehashchena sharsheret shubetzet ba'avdei chen lalechet lachatuna. So this is apparently a very common practice. I borrowed a piece of jewelry from my friend, a beautiful necklace that has precious stones in it, so that I could attend a wedding. I don't have such a beautiful piece myself, but a lot of women do this. They will lend out their jewelry to a friend who was going to a very big event so that they can look nice. And at the end of the evening, you'll give it back to me. L'tza'ari hasharsheret avdali b'chatuna. Okay, unfortunately, to my great dismay, I lost the necklace. Maybe the clasp broke or whatever it was, but I lost the necklace. And so I was able to accumulate with great effort the ability to pay her back for the necklace. So I immediately paid her back for the price of the necklace. The following week, I found the necklace. Now, how did she find it? I don't know. Maybe someone from Lost and Found. Okay, could be. You get caught in your beard also. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yes. So I want to give her the necklace and get my money back. Now, is my neighbor obligated to accept the necklace back and give me my cash back? Or can she claim, I'd rather have the cash? In other words, the owner of the necklace says, you know what? Cash is much better. I don't need that necklace anymore. I wrote it off. I detached myself mentally from it. And I have, maybe the necklace was a multi-$1,000 necklace. And now she can go take a vacation. But the neighbor says, no, but I found it. I found it. Give me back the cash. And she doesn't want to now. So what's the halacha? Chime in, anybody, before we see. What do you think? What should the halacha be? You would think, right? No, here's the opposite. The opposite. What we're saying is the original owner doesn't want to take it back. She doesn't want to take it back because she'd rather have the $5,000. Yeah, her attitude is, I, so you're saying she needs to take it back. Why?
She meant it. She was thinking, I'm on the sell it. The intention was, I lend it to for 1 day, to give back to me, take care of it. It happened that she lost it, okay, but it was her intention initially to sell the item. So I think she needs to take it back.
Reinstate the original position.
She gave up on this. And this was selling, like, continued like that, back and forth, and I think that could be the benefit she has.
I think she does, because maybe the person who borrowed the necklace and lost it. To get, maybe she didn't have the cash to get it somewhere, and it wasn't easy for her.
It could have been her child's to education fund, that's, so she really, like Nelatsky, she really pushed herself to really accumulate this money.
I think there's an enforceable settlement agreement between the parties. You cannot force her.
You cannot, so Marvin, are you basing this on Ontario law, Marvin? That
Yeah.
So she can't be forced to accept the necklace back.
Right. I think that they settled the claim amongst themselves by entering into a contract of settlement saying, I owe you for your necklace. I'm going to pay you a certain amount to replace that cost or whatever. Do you agree? Yes, I do. So I think there's an enforceable contract to settle it. So unless she agrees, I don't think you can force her.
Okay, thank you for that, Lloyd. That the Beis Din should enforce her to take it back. Okay, Barry? But it's more, but this is more than just Hashavas Aveda. Barry's bring the argument of the mitzvah of returning lost items. In a sense, she's already fulfilled that mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda by paying the value. Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yes, Shmuel.
yeah, could it be a mekach tout?
So Shmuel's arguing that it was a mekach tos, I think you're countering Marvin's argument. Marvin's argument is they entered into a transactional agreement, but the transactional agreement was done under mistaken pretenses because the woman who borrowed the necklace thought it was lost and she would never see it again. And lo and behold, she finds it. Had she known that she would find the necklace the next week, she never would have shelled out the $5,000 for the necklace. What do you say about that, Marvin?
Yeah, I'm not sure what mekach tos requires, but she at the time when she made the deal, it was lost. So I don't think there is any mistake. I think that there is now a change in circumstance, which Shmuel maybe says that's a mekach tos. I'm not sure if that's or not. In Ontario law, that wouldn't be a mistake of fact, because at the time the deal was made, the facts were clear. It was lost or stolen or whatever. So I don't think.
What about like what Mordechai said? It never really was lost because it was just stuck to some thread in the back of her dress, and she just didn't look carefully enough.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I guess it depends on what the true story is. If it really wasn't lost, I think they both believed it was lost, and therefore would probably be assumed it was lost, and they made a deal. I think I would agree with Shmuel if the value that she paid for it was much less than or more than what the true value was. But if the value was the value and she gave her a 5,000 for the cost and that's what it's worth, I think I would still say a deal's a deal and she gets to keep it.
Okay, Ron.
I don't know if I'm lucky here, but I was just saying morally, it would be really nice for the lady who had to the person pay the money out to replace that necklace, but she gets her money back. Just pay a nice thing to do, but also, I'm saying, one aspect what we're not talking about here is, what about the tircha of the store owner who sold that $5,000 necklace now? You know, he thought he had a sale there, and now that's gone. Because they're gonna return it to the store, the necklace.
No,
No?
the necklace is gone. The necklace is missing. This
She
one,
has to go and buy a $5,000 necklace.
no. She's giving her the cash value for it. She's giving her 5,000 in cash. And the woman who originally owned the necklace says, I'd rather have the 5,000 in cash than take the necklace back. All right.
Al pi chesed, she should take it
Okay.
back.
We'll start the tshuva tomorrow, Rabbi. Okay?
Al pi chesed, she should take it back.
What's that, Izzy?
Al pi chesed, she should take it back.
Al pi chesed, she should take it back. What does the halacha say? We're not nice guys. We want to know what the halacha is. Okay, we'll continue Mitzvah Shem tomorrow. Take care.